Hello, I'm Markpaulpable, and welcome to Kerbal Space Program Interplanetary Missions. Well, this time the Kerbals in their infinite wisdom have decided to go to Duna, not because it's easy, not because it is hard, but because it's what they would do on a Sunday afternoon. Most people would take a drive into the countryside, but no, a Kerbal would take his rocket to another planet. But why Duna, I hear you say? Well, Kerbals have evolved instinctively to go up. It's why they invented the rocket for the wheel. And Duna is the next step up from the man. They are also curious, like, why is the planet red? Has it rusted? Did someone spill paint over it? Or did a game developer decide to colour it red? Also the ice caps. What are they made from? Can Kerbals eat it? And then there's the moon Ike. Why is it called Ike? The only way they're going to find out is to send someone out there. But before we send Kerbals, we need to send a probe so we can determine what crafts we will need, where and how we're going to land, and what science we're going to conduct. As you've probably seen and guessed, that is my Duna probe on the launch pad, and I've been lining up the planets for optimal intercept from Kerbal to Duna. And we are almost there. I think we need a little bit more, tiny bit more. There you go, the planets are lined up now. So let's go to the launch pad. So here we are, and it looks like it's going to be a nighttime launch. So let's get our flight information up and stage our rocket correctly. Thrust up slightly to help with control using the vectoring rocket. We'll use the SRBs to get through the thickest part of the atmosphere and thrust up when we decouple them. Which looks like it's not going to be long from now. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1... decouple and full throttle. So our plan is simple: get into orbit, get onto the trajectory for Duna. Oh wait, we're late for our gravity turn, so we better get to 45 degrees slowly. The rocket seems difficult to control. Well, at least we're not out of control. So now I plan to get to about 70 to 80 kilometers to take advantage of the all-birth effect to get to interplanetary space. If I'm right, correct me if I'm wrong, the closer to a planet we are, the faster we are going, the extra potential energy we'll have to add to our interplanetary burn. I think that's right. We're almost at 70 kilometers, so I'll stop here until I get an orbital solution. Right, here we are. Orbit maneuver is set up, so let's align the rocket up with it. I'll rearrange the fairings to decouple after our orbit burn for effects. And let's burn now. Our fuel in this stage is almost out. I love this part. Decouple, engage next engine, and blow the last stage to tumble back into Kerbal's atmosphere. Cool. Once we're in orbit, I can decouple the fairings and I'll show you the space probes. Ooh, look, we're coming up to Kerbal's sun, or Kerbal, as Kerbals like to call it. Right, we are in orbit around 75 to 70 kilometers. So now we can decouple the fairings. Now, another cool effect I love. But this is going to leave space junk in orbit around Kerbal, so we may have to deal with that at a later date. But now let's extend the solar panels before we run out of electric charge. Now we're at full charge, let's show you the equipment on the probes. I have S.C.A.N sat on here with high and low resolution altimeters. It's only available on the KSP forums at the moment. All links in the video description below. As you can see, we are mapping the surface of Kerbal, so it works. Let's switch them off to save charge. Oops. I also have other sensors on the probe, like the gravioli detector, temperature, barometer and accelerometer. We also have an impact probe here with the barometer on it. We can send it into Duna's atmosphere. Let's extend the high gain antenna so we can send the data back to Kerbal, otherwise it will be useless. Let's now set up our intercept maneuver for Duna. As you see, I'm trying to set her for a closest approach No need to set up for encounter with Duna yet, so we can perform correction maneuvers later on to get our encounter. As you can see, we're a little late for our intercept angle, so we will need to use a little bit more delta V for our intercept burn. That we could have saved. I reckon that's bad mission management if you ask me. Let's get lined up and accelerate to our maneuver node. A little burn to check the time doesn't seem long enough. Burn time. Yep, we're 30 seconds late for our burn. Dang it. More bad mission management. Let's hope this doesn't cost us the mission. There passes one of the probe's fairings. Luckily I plan to use aerobraking through Duna's atmosphere, so we should be alright. Hopefully. Our burn is complete. Let's get rid of the node. Well, we've got 3 million kilometers away from Duna, 20 hours from Kerbal escape. So let's watch a cinematic effect of our escape from Kerbal. This probe will never see Kerbal again, but it will never lose touch with its creators. Bye bye Kerbal. Let's slow down to take a snapshot to send to the press on Kerbal, our first mission to another planet. A bold and expensive step into space exploration, but hopefully worth our time and effort. Before we get carried away though, let's set up our Duna encounter. Come on, encounter already. Here we are, 46,000 kilometers apoapsis from Duna. We are already lined up for our burn. A small burn to check our burn time. A quick check of the map. We're good to go. And we are burning for Duna. Just look at this beautiful space probe. I am really proud of it. Excellent work. Whoops. Overburned. Pay attention. But at least we're having a closer encounter with Duna at 36,000 kilometers. But let's set up our next node for our closer encounter. Remember, we're aiming to conduct aerobraking. This will give us the chance to find out how deep into Duna's atmosphere we will need to be for an effective aerobraking. And we can use that data to plan our aerobraking for our mission when we send our Kerbals. Because every ounce of fuel we save will be used to return our Kerbals home. Okay, our node is set up. I'll come back when we are at our burn. Okay, I've skipped the last burn as it was only a small one and set up our last correction burn. We may not have enough fuel in this stage, so we will have to use the fuel in the probe. Let's burn, baby. Little corrections. Oh, yep, I was right. Let's kill this rotation and burn as close as possible to our maneuver node. Okay, done. Let's take a look at the map. "3,000 kilometers. Let's get to our encounter. Look, there's Duna and Ike. And there's a bit of space probe debris by that. But we're on our way to Duna. Yay! Let's look at the map. I've set up our orbit injection maneuver. I have a close approach to Ike, and then I will enter Duna's atmosphere at about 36 kilometers. We have found out using the pictures taken by the probe that the atmosphere starts at about 41 kilometers. Damn, Sony Vegas decided to crash me at this crucial moment. So I've lost some of my editing, but I will try to cut you out as best as possible. So if you find things out of place, don't worry, it's just me trying to edit the video. There you go, I've set up my Ike encounter. adjust my Duna aerobraking maneuver. And then we will head towards Ike. I'll jump video here. Approaching Ike now, so I'll switch on my scan sat, mapping satellite things, and my gravity detector. The idea is that the radar and the gravity detector will help us determine the surface of Ike. And yes, my maneuver node seems like over 7,000 meters per second. I won't be able to do that. So let's reset it. Let's bring it below or about 35 kilometers. No lower, because we may damage the probe if anything lower than that. And let's get our scanning of Ike. That'll keep our scientists busy while we do our aerobraking maneuvers. And you're probably saying that I should have set up a maneuver node earlier on, so I'd have aerobraking through Duna. That would have saved a lot more fuel. Yes, but it would have brought up some difficulties. One, we wouldn't have the Ike encounter. And two, we would have been deeper in the atmosphere to cut down our interplanetary speeds. And yes, our last move node didn't seem right. No, don't burn prograde, burn retrograde. I'll use Kerbal engineer to do this maneuver. But as I was saying, the aerobraking in Duna would have been deeper to cut down our interplanetary speeds, and we may have damaged the probe. Yeah, I know it's a game and it probably wouldn't have damaged the probe, but work with me. Let's pretend it's real. Right now I'm switching on my scientific gear here. Checking to see if I have everything on, because it always feels like I left something out. Okay, checking. Oops. And I did an accidental burn there. So the rest, so let's correct our periaps in the atmosphere. Okay, we look like everything is fine. So we're coming to our closest approach to Duna. And by here I find a problem. The orbit seems to have changed, so we go into Duna. So we have to burn prograde this time. Set remove nodes so we can get the orbit correct. Or position. And burn it so we're about 35 million kilometers. That'll do. And accelerate time. Here's the problem I have. I find out that I didn't use enough batteries. The charge is going down too quickly. So I decided to turn off all non-essential equipment and reactivate it when I come back to the other side. Another example of bad mission management. I should have put more batteries on the probe. So now I think everything is off. So let's double check everything. Turn the Kerbal engineer. No, I'll leave that on because we need to know how much our orbit will drop down through the atmosphere. And by here I decide to close one of the panels up just in case we lose one during the atmospheric braking, aero braking. But then I realise that if a panel comes off and we don't have enough charge to open the other panel, we will lose our probe and we'll lose our scientific data. So it appears our periapsis is coming down with the aerobraking, but not by much. It appears we'll have to go deeper into the atmosphere for a proper aerobraking, but that is why we're doing this, to learn the most effective way for aerobraking. And we can use this data for our Kerbal mission to Duna. So we will need to be deeper in the atmosphere to get an effective aerobraking, especially if we want to slow down from interplanetary speeds. Now we're out in the atmosphere here, so I open up the other panel, and in a moment we'll come into the sunlight. So we're charging up. I decide to turn some of the equipment back on, and then we will decouple the impactor probe. I decide to, yeah. Turn the old equipment on, then I'll high gain antenna so we can receive the data from the impact probe, decouple, switch the probe, So then I'm planning by here, and I find that my thrust isn't working on the probe. So I think there's something wrong here. A little skip ahead into the video, and still the thrust isn't working. Maneuver set up. I didn't activate the engine. That was the problem. I decided I'd go for a daytime landing. No, not landing, I mean impact. I want to impact the probe. And I decided to use all our fuel. And by here, I lose control. So I shut down the engine. And let's do some science. You see my electric charge going down quickly, but we'll pretend that we had enough electric charge for this. I'm not going to build another probe and send it back out. Let's get our atmospherics and crash into the planet. We have got good atmospheric data from that, and we know that the surface of Duna is solid. Good for a landing. And you can see here, I realise that we're scanning the equator of the planet, and we need to be in polar orbit so we can get mapping of the entire planet, so we can choose our landing sites. That's if we're going to land. Don't know that yet, do we? Okay then, maneuver node is set up. So then we burn on the node, get our polar or polarish orbit, and I decide to delete the lax node and go back for aerobraking. Why? Because we haven't got much delta V left in the spacecraft or in the probe. So to save that, we will do this maneuver, get back in the atmosphere, because we can also then do a correction into a proper polar orbit. Correct it by here, so we get back into the atmosphere, and I believe we come down a bit deeper into the atmosphere to bring our, so we can do more science and find out the best aerobraking for our Kerbal mission. And we're burning by here a little bit more. I think that's good enough. We'll delete that node, and as you can see from the SCANsat map in the corner there, that we are mapping more of the planet. And close one of the panels because we're coming in deeper into the atmosphere, although I assume it's not going to be of a problem, but we're still losing charge on the dark side of the planet, which may make mapping take longer if this mod uses charge. You can see here I'm checking the large map, I'm fiddling with it to see it. I think one is a lower definition and one's high resolution. It appears that coming this deep into the atmosphere is bringing down our apoapsis quickly, but it won't be enough to bring us from interplanetary speeds, so we'll have to use rockets for that as well as aerobraking. But the aerobraking will at least save us some fuel. Perhaps we can also use Ike as a gravity brake. Extend the panels. Now we're in the S.C.A.N. And now we found out about the aerobraking, and I find out by here that we don't scan when we're over 500 kilometers, as well as when we lose our charge. I will cut the video here and bring you back when we have a full map. Right then, I'm back. I've almost finished mapping, and you see I've altered my orbit now. So we're continuously in sunlight, so we're continuously scanning. That's one problem solved, and I've altered the orbit to between 450 kilometers and 354 kilometers. I said that in the wrong order, but never mind. And as you can see, we're continuously scanning. We've got a few gaps to fill. Well, that's no problem. What matters is that we now have enough data on this map to decide where we're going to land, if we do land. As you see in the middle, we seem to have a gully. The yellow part and the dark greenish part, is it? I think, is the deeper part, and the higher part are the red and the purple, and then the white is the higher peaks. Except for the grey part, you see, that's the part of the map I am filled in. Anyway, I was thinking of landing in the gully, or perhaps in the large clearing to the right. I should have left my mouse cursor on the record so I could point at it. Anyway, that little gully, the little round bit, looks like a depression to the right of the map. Or shall I go for the gully, where we could may find evidence that water used to exist on Duna, like it did on Mars. Right then, let's close this map down, export it as a PNG, close map down. At this point, I see a graphical glitch. If you look on the bottom of Mars, part of the textures aren't rotating. So here I am trying to show you while orbiting. You can see it is not rotating with the planet. Weird, huh? Anyway, let's have a look for this gully. There it is. You can just see it by here in the shadow. From the North Pole going down in diagonal to the south. Anyway, I think that's where I will be landing. And that is where I'll leave this show. Next time we'll be about designing and building the craft and testing it for landing on Duna and on Ike. So if you like this video, please click on like, share if you can. Thank you for watching. I'm Markpaulpable, and remember, you're not doing science properly unless you're having fun.